Hello everyone. Welcome to Module 3, Session 6, Understanding Repetition and Rhythm as a Principle of Design. So let's dive in. So in our previous session, we have talked about contrast, and I'm pretty sure you have learned the importance of contrast, how contrast plays a major role in a composition, in highlighting any kind of elements, right? And parallelly, it also creates a hierarchy of information through contrasting representation. So next, we will learn about repetition and rhythm in this module. And primarily, we will start with repetition. Then we'll conclude the session with rhythm. So repetition is a design principle that involves reusing the same or similar design elements through a composition to create consistency, cohesiveness, and rhythm. These repeated elements can include colors, shapes, patterns, fonts, or texture. Repetition reinforces the identity of a design and it helps to establish virtual unity. So you may ask why repetition is important as a part of design. So primarily, repetition creates unity. It ties different parts together in a design and it makes feel more cohesive. Also considering in terms of identity design or branding, the consistent use of repeated elements strengthen the recognition and reinforces the concept of branding. It also improves navigation. So repeated patterns or styles guide viewers through a design intuitively. And finally, it also adds rhythm and harmony to the overall composition. Sometimes repetition can also simplify complex design. So using a specific set of elements will reduce the chaotic nature of the composition, making it easier to understand. So, by strategically using repetition, designers ensure that their work feel polished, professional, and connected. So now we will go through all the points which I have talked in now, and we'll see using examples, and we'll try to explore and understand with those examples. Yes, so this is Charminar, which is located in Hyderabad, and it is a historic monument and a symbol of city's rich heritage. It was built during 1591 by Qutub Shah, Sultan Muhammad Qutub Shah, and it is one of the renowned space or monument which is believed to be mark of the identity of Hyderabad. So you may ask why it's called Charminar, because it has four minarets. You can see here, right? One, two, three, four, and we'll discuss how the minarets are being addressed and how repetition happens in the minarets. So you can see here one of the closer picture of the minaret, right? And you can see it is a combination of Indo-Islamic architecture with Persian influence. Uh, and you can see here how the repetition of floral petal motifs has been incorporated in overall segments of the pillar. And also in the minaret, you can see how the arches, open arches, are being addressed, right? And it is in a repeated way, in a very measurable, repeated way. So this is a very interesting way how the concept of uniformity is being prevailed, considering the idea of repetition in the overall composition. So, if you consider most of the architecture, the idea of repetition is always there. Even in the modern architecture, you can see some elements like opening arches or windows panels seems to be repeated in nature to create a uniformity in the overall composition. So next is a stepwell, which is very famous. It's known as Chand Bauri, uh, which is uh, which is in Rajasthan, India. and it's an architectural marvel and a ingenious solution to water scarcity in the arid region. So you can see how the concept of steps becomes functional in nature, and also aesthetically it's very much pleasing, right? And it's a purposeful choice of creating such kind of layout, right? With again, because of such kind of layout, the idea of repetition is quite predominant in here. And it is said that it was built during 8th to 9th century, and primarily such kind of structure serves both as a functional and cultural purpose at that time. So this is how, because of the idea of repetition, there is a sense of rhythm also, so which we will discuss in the upcoming session. So but again, here the concept of rhythm is also addressed, because your eyes navigate towards a specific way, right? And it's a gradual way of movement happening parallelly. Yeah, so I think we have also discussed this as an example of balance, right? Now we can say ki, at that time we were talking about symmetrical balance, right? And if you consider repetition, the symmetrical balance is happening because of the repeated elements in equal visual weight. So here you can see again how the repeated elements like the wine glass, right? And the bottle, the hands are part of the compositions, and because of that, the idea of visual balance in terms of visual weight has been equally distributed, right? And this is how the concept of repetition in terms of, again, if you see the colors are being repeated, the white and black has been repeated as a part of the compositions. So repetition in terms of elements, repeat like shapes, lines are being addressed. Again, repetition in terms of color, texture has been addressed. So those are elements, as I said in my previous session, right? Without elements there is no principle. So using the elements, how the concept of principles are being obtained. Yes. So even this we have discussed, right? This is the London Underground Metro map, right? And it was created by Henry C. Beck. Uh, and you can see how the concept of repetition has been attained using the similar geometric lines has been used as a part of repetition. Apart from that, repeated colors like blue, red, right, black, green has been used in terms of depicting the information in a structured way, reducing the chaotic nature of the map, right? And this is also, you can see here how the idea of the symbols, right, plays an important role. So there is this, if you see here, the stoppage, some of the stoppages are showcase using a circle. So repeated use of circle again creates uniformity, which helps or navigates the users to understand the context in a more comprehensive manner, right? So this is again a better way or a functional way. You can see how repetition plays a important role in defining the map. Yes. So next comes the website. So this is the landing page. And we have also discussed this website as a part of other principles of design. And keep this in your mind. So principle of design doesn't mean it will have only one single principles. So in a composition, there can be multiple principles, multiple elements. So you don't have to get confused that if you're saying, so here you see only balance, but balance is happening because of multiple principles. It's not like only one principle is there in the composition. Similarly, here you can see the principle of contrast along with principles of repetition, right? And again, the sense of variety is also there, right? You can see different typefaces, sizes, right? So it's not like only one composition will include only one principle. There can be multiple principles in a composition. Okay, so don't be confused with that. So here, since we are talking about the principle of repetition, you can sense how repetition in color is happening. So here the theme is blue and blue, white, and parrot green, right? So you can sense how the colors are repeated. The use of white colors are repeated. The use of blue color, the parrot green colors are repeated, right? So repetition in color is creating the overall essence of the particular theme. Okay. Apart from that, the elements like the typeface, the you can see how the typeface has been repeated all over, right? And you can see how there is a consistency in representing the overall layout. In terms of that, you can see elements, right, which is the initial of the brand name, right, served as, which is the S is taken into consideration, and it together it creates a harmonious repetitive representation, which is very much, it seems like dynamic in nature, right? And apart from that, if you see how foreground and background is happening again, right? So here similar background has been utilized to showcase the important dates, right? And the similar size of font has been utilized to showcase. So if any user is coming here, he or she can easily understand what are the important segment of this conference, right? So this is how even in web-based application or mobile application, the concept of repetition plays an important role in expressing the overall theme or the brand essence. Yeah, so this is another page, right? Another banner which of the same event. Now to create consistency in the overall representation, although the background seems to be different, but since this falls under the theme design, the use of parrot green is more dominant compared to the previous one. But again, to have an essence, the element of blue has been added to highlight, right? So again, in the previous segment, you have seen this repeated elements, right? Again, here to create the same consistency, same uniformity, and same relationship, the use of the similar elements, circular elements, has been added. Okay, so this, although the content is different here, but because of the repeated elements, you are easily able to understand whether it's coming from the same brand or same organization or the same page, right? So next is we will talk about mobile representation. So typically nowadays we use lots and lots of application in mobile, and one of the application most of you will know is about Instagram. So in Instagram there are social media posts, right? So we'll look into how social media posts can also get benefited using the concept of repetition. So, as you know, we have talked about iCord, right? So in iCord, we are also looking into different speakers, right? So here you can see these are different posts. There are three posts which highlights of the speaker details who will be joining and giving a note, right, on that particular event, and how the overall template has been designed. Okay, so although the speaker details are different, the images are different, repetition of similar way, right, in terms of grid, the same grid has been utilized in all the three segments, right? The same font size and the typeface has been taken into consideration, and because of that there is a uniformity. So indirectly you are creating a relationship between all the different posts, although the post details are different, but since there is a consistency using the concept of repetition, right, somewhere or the other people who are looking into it will associate it with the same event. Okay, and this is a very good example where most of the brands, right, try to look into the concept of repetition while they are promoting their products, promoting their or advertising their product. So the elements associated to the brand will always be reflected or showcased some or the other. Okay, most of you might not know. So this is a CRED. This is a fintech company which is based in India that offers credit card payments and app and other financial services. So primarily, you can see since it's associated to financial technology, again, the use of lines has been used, which is again elements of design, right? And use of similar lines has been used to represent the brand mark. So you can sense here it feels like a shield, right? And it's protecting the digital space. Because of these lines, you somehow or the other will associate with the electronic circuits, right? These lines again discloses the digital space, and because of the repetition of same line, it creates a uniformity on the overall brand logo design, right? And this is very very interesting how a simple like a simple way to look into, and without creating any chaos. So the use of similar lines is reducing the chaos in the overall composition. So one might say, okay, I want to use a different shapes, but if you use too many shapes, the logo becomes too heavy in terms of different elements, and it may be very much difficult for people to recognize or to retain the visual or the mental image of that particular logo, right? So when you use repeated things, it becomes very much easier for any kind of users to consume the information in a much better way rather than in a chaotic way. So this is a very good example where you can see how simple repeated lines create the essence of the brand, right? And it becomes much more sophisticated, and very much uniform in nature, and it also provides a sense of balance in the overall composition. Yeah. So next is the Olympic logo. As you can see, there are repeated circles, right, tangled with each other. So you might say, who like how the concept of repetition is happening. So primarily in terms of anatomy, that is the circle thickness, right? You can see the repetition of the overall element has been observed. So the logo consists of interlocking rings, which are colored blue, right? Yellow, green, again black, red are being observed. Again, this symbolizes the continents which we have talked about, right? And primarily, when you see the concept of interlocking, it also reflects the universality, unity, and the spirit of global cooperation. So you can see how simple representation creates a very much symbolic way of reflecting the overall concept. Okay, and this is attained because of this simplicity. And simplicity again is being addressed when the concept of repetition has been thought about. So if you are trying to address any new logo representation or any kind of composition or any kind of information, right, repetition may help you to create simplicity, to enhance the simplicity in that particular artwork. Okay, so this is what you have to take care or understand the importance of principles of design. Again, this is another brand, right, which we talked about, Adidas, which has three strips. And you can see this stripes predominantly in most of the merchandise overall stores, right? If you go to a store, you will see these three stripes like moving all over the space, right? And this is again interestingly how three stripes creates the essence of the brand. So even though if you're wearing a t-shirt or shorts, right? If I can see a three stripes with the black or white color, right? Somewhere or the other, even though the brand name might not be visible, but since you have seen the same thickness of these three stripes, right? You will always associate it with the brand Adidas. And that's the power of repetition. So most of the branding agency take the benefit of such kind of things to create the brand presence and also to retain the brand essence. Okay, so this is how you can look into the concept of repetition. So since now we have went through multiple examples, we'll quickly recall what we have learned. So repetition is a fundamental of design principle that plays a critical role in creating visually cohesive and engaging and impactful design. Its importance extends across the digital platforms like branding, advertising, and product design, ensuring consistency, recognition, and usability. So, in the present world, as you can see, the examples which you have taken into consideration, most of the users are bombarded with information, and because of repetition, it ensures the clarity and consistency. As I said, if you use too many elements, right, too many different elements, it may become chaotic in nature. So, repetition may help you to reduce the chaotic nature of that particular composition. Okay, so by weaving repetition into design, creators can craft experiences that are not only aesthetically pleasing but also functional and impactful, which fosters connection between the people and the visual world. Okay, so with this, we'll end the segment of the repetition. Next, we'll start with rhythm. So, in the previous session, we have talked about repetition. So, now we'll continue with the rhythm. So, rhythm in principles of design refers to the visual flow or movement created by the repetition of design elements such as lines, shapes, color, textures, or patterns. It guides the viewer's eye through a composition, creating a sense of order, harmony, and dynamism. So, rhythm is essentially for making designs engaging and cohesive as it introduces a feeling of continuity and connectedness. So, we'll go through different examples now and we'll try to understand how the idea of repetition is incorporated in that particular composition. Okay, so now here this image shows you the contrasting lines of black and white, right? And we'll try to understand what's happening here. So the provided image demonstrated the design principles of rhythm through repetition of black and white lines, right, which are vertical in nature. And rhythm in the design refers to the visual flow created by repeating elements. So you can see here how the elements are repeated, right? So you can see the similar stroke here, and some of these strokes are quite similar with each other in this segment, right? So it guides the viewer across the composition. So because of this repeated lines, your eyes gradually move from left to bottom, right? Left to right and top to bottom, right? And in this image, the alternating use of black and white stripes from a regular and a predictable patterns establish a steady and a consistent rhythm. So you can easily map how the intensity is here reduced and suddenly it's getting thicker, right? Again, there's a reduce of intensity, again, there's a thickness of intensity. So it feels like uniform in nature, right? So the uniform width of the stripes contribute to a sense of order and balance, while there's a strong contrast between the lines. Okay, so because of this, the arrangement feels more rhythmic in nature, creating a harmony, making the design and dynamic and structured in nature. Okay, so we are taking another example where now we have implemented gradient in the overall composition. So you can see a sense of decrease in the sense of the darkness and the lightness of this composition. Again, the interval seems to be very much structured, and when you look to the overall composition, there is uh, a uniform representation of that particular composition. But now here the image is bit complex. Okay, so unlike the previous uniform repetition of we have the example which we have looked, this image uses varied patterns. So you can see how there are different varieties of segments, right, which are not equidistant in nature, right? And this uses also black and white, including gray stripes, which are varying in density and spacing. Okay, so this image reflects a rhythmic structure that balances the repetition with variation. Okay, so this varies a lot in terms of the overall composition, maintaining a harmony while engaging with the viewers. And because of this, there are some unexpected patterns and movement happening due to this varying representation. So we will see point wise how the idea of rhythm can be observed with specific analysis. Okay, so here primarily you can see repetition is happening with variations, right? You can see there is a variation of this block, right? And suddenly the size is changing. Again, there is a smaller version. Again, it's getting a little bit larger. So the width, spacing, and inclusion of gray, this all creates the complexity. And because of such kind of complexity, the overall composition seems to be more interesting in nature. Okay, so next is movement and flow. So if you see the movement, the arrangement of rectangular groups across the composition creates a dynamic flow. So since the arrangements are not in a very well structured manner, it feels like more of a dispersed or distributed in nature, and because of that, the overall composition seems to be more dynamic, flowy, which creates a guide to the users in a more non-linear manner. Okay, another point which we can also see is like irregular and irregular rhythm is observed. Okay, so within each group the rhythm of or the spacing seems to be very much different, right? And here within the same interval you can also see there is a variety of rhythm happening. So the overall seems to be very much the rhythm appears to be more structured, and sometimes it's very unorganized. And due to this irregularity, the overall group seems to be more dynamic. Okay, and because of that, the concept of rhythm is more retained in the overall composition. Next is contrast and layering. So if you see here, the use of black and white and the gray provides a tonal contrast, adding depth and rhythm that fills the layer. The fills the overall layer is more dynamic rather than just a flat representation. Yeah, so we have discussed about how those things are being attained in that particular composition. We'll also see how rhythm works in the overall design. So at core, rhythm is about creating a sequence of visual beats, as you can see in this image, right, which reflects a specific beat at a specific interval, or which creates a flow and it helps the viewer to navigate through the overall composition. So these beats are established through repetition, spacing, and arrangement of design elements. So as you can see in the previous composition right here, you can see how the repetition and spacing are being arranged using lines and shapes, right, and a color as a part of the composition. And because of this, how the concept of rhythm has been retained. So depending on how these elements are organized, rhythm can convey a varied of feeling and calm and predictable to dynamic and energetic representation. Yes. So this is another example where it shows an undulating surface composed with metallic panels that create a dynamic sense of rhythm through their repetition, variation, and flow. So if you see the repeated elements here are the segments of this, right, which are being repeated in a regular interval, and you can see a wavy representation, and overall composition feels like complete with a sense of dynamic sense because of the wavy nature, right? And the variation of these waves are different in each segments, and all this if you take into consideration, right, the sense of rhythm is being prevailed. Okay. Next, you can see this heritage building where the idea of rhythm is established through the segments. So if you see, there are different segments here, right, which is getting expanded from this point to the lower point, right? So initially there are less segments, then gradually it extends, right? And along with that, the size are varied in a specific interval. So in this segment, you can see a larger arches, right? Larger set of arches. Suddenly, there are smaller set of these segments, right? And it's happening in a very periodical manner. Okay, and because of that, the elements can change its size, color, or placement while maintaining the concept of rhythm. So it feels, although the concept of repetition is happening, as I said, any composition can have multiple principles. It's not necessary that a single composition may have only one. It's not necessary. There can be multiple composition in multiple principles in a composition. Okay, so here again the repetition is happening, and because of the repeated repetition in a specific interval, the concept of rhythm has been addressed in this particular layout, right? Yeah. So this is an artwork where you can see it's hanged over the ceiling, and here the concept of navigation is quite predominant. Okay, so the idea of direction is happening in this rhythm. So rhythm can guide a viewer's eye in a specific direction, which can be vertical, horizontal, diagonal, or curve, depending on how the elements are arranged. Okay, so if we can see here, it feels like the overall navigation seems to be branching out, and if you see the overall navigation from this point, right, your eyes gradually seeks for different branches, and gradually it ends in here, and you can see how the overall direction has been projected in both horizontal and diagonal, and also in a curved way, right? And because of this, the sense of rhythm can be observed in this particular composition. Yes. So this is another way how we can see rhythm. So here the concept of spacing is predominant. Okay, the distance between repeated elements defines the type and intensity of the rhythm. So regular spacing creates predictability, while irregular spacing adds surprise to the energy. So you can see here the overall spacing seems to be irregular. And again, I say this irregularity is happening because of other elements like spacing, right? So if you see, there is a contrast of sizes here. Okay, so you can sense there is a different sizes, and along with that there is a contrast of color happening, right? And because of the sizes, now the space is getting affected. Okay, and because of that, the sense of rhythm, the intensity is getting varied in each segment, but your eyes navigates to all the segment of the composition. Okay, so this creates an additional surprise or energy to the overall composition. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure some of you might know about Alfred Hitchcock. So he is a renowned filmmaker, and this is one of the his iconic poster, which is of the movie named Vertigo, and this was designed by Saul Bass. And Saul Bass is a renowned graphic designer, motion graphic also, and he has done multiple movie title designs, right? And you can see this composition seems to be very much interesting, and this is one of the iconic posters by Saul Bass, which also defines the concept of rhythm in the overall composition. So let's try to analyze it one by one. So in this composition, you can easily see how repetition is happening in the name of spirals. Okay, so I am using the word repetition because most of the time, if you see in any composition, the idea of repetition is always there to project the idea of rhythm. Okay, so here repetition in spiral, what I mean is that the poster features repeated spiral lines, and this that decreases in size as they move towards the center. So you can see here gradually it's going right, and it's getting decrease in terms of when it's addressing the central portion, right? And this movement creates a sense of rhythm. So it's a gradual, it feels like it's a gradual approach, and because of that it has a sense of rhythm. And this spiral lines establish a flowing rhythm that draws the viewer eyes inward. Okay, your eyes goes gradually towards the central portion of this composition, and it mimics the dizzy effect of vertigo itself. Okay, and this is very interesting to see how visual elements create the essence of the movie. Okay, in the second portion, the flowing rhythm, right? So the flowing rhythm, what I mean by that is like the spiral creates a flow of rhythm that convey a sense of movement and dynamism. And because of the tilted nature of this character, and also the strokes which are very much dynamic and not too much specific to aesthetic representation, the overall circular motion sense a movement which is also associated to vortex, right? And it's visually representing the disorientation and obsession, which is also a key of the movie. Okay, so one of the key themes of the movie, it feels like both of the characters, like the man and woman, are going towards or inward that circle, right? It's pulling towards, it's being pulled towards the vortex, right? And the fluid motions also create tension, okay, and intriguing, aligning with the suspense tones of Hitchcock's masterpiece. Okay. Next is how the contrast and directions are happening. So if you see, the rhythm of the spiral is broken into central silhouettes of man and woman, as I was talking about these two characters, right? And these silhouettes are broken, which serve as a focal point. So now, if you see the overall poster, right, this portion seems to be very much a focal point to the overall composition. This contrast also amplifies the sense of drama and directs the viewer gaze to the central narrative of the poster. And the characters are positioned within the flow of the spiral that makes appear trapped in the rhythm, reinforcing the theme of being caught in an uncontrollable or psychological whirlpool. Okay, so again, every composition here is associated to the theme of the movie. So if you're trying to be a graphic designer, if you're trying to create a poster, it's always important to understand what is the context, why you want to design the poster, and based on that, how and what kind of elements you are trying to address to capture the idea of the overall theme, right? And because of this, how you can see or use different elements and principles of design to express the idea. So in conclusion, the use of rhythm in this poster elevates it beyond a simple advertisement to a piece of art that encapsulate the theme and emotion of vertigo. By employing repetition, flowing, and progressive rhythm, the contrasting elements, Sol Base creates a dynamic composition that engages the viewers, communicates the essence of the film, and leaves a lasting impression. And this is a very masterful demonstration of the concept of rhythm here as a poster. So let's go to another composition as a poster. We'll look into the idea of rhythm again in the concept of poster, right? So you can see this is a poster of 1912 Stockholm Olympic, and this demonstrate again the concept of rhythm as a key design principle by effectively conveying movement, energy, and harmony. So you can see different countries flag in the background, right, which is again flowy in nature, and this creates a dynamic representation in the overall composition. Again, it engages, because of this flowiness, it engages the viewer's attention towards the background, also towards the character, which here is the focal point here, right? And the alternating patterns of the vibrant national flags adds a dynamic variety and symbolizes the diversity of the international participation. Okay. And again, when you are trying to compose different elements, although the overall composition seems to be chaotic in nature, right? But this has been attained properly by using better compositions, better better color choices, and the use of elements to convey more dynamism towards the overall composition. So the overall rhythm in this composition amplifies the excitement and anticipation of the event, making the poster not only visually striking but also emotionally engaging. It captures the overall global spirit and celebratory essence of the game while maintaining a balanced and cohesive aesthetics. Now, since we are about to conclude this session, so let's try to understand what we have learned considering the examples which we have taken into consideration, right? So, rhythm is, as a principle of design, involves repetition and alternation of visual elements to create movement, harmony, flow within a composition. Okay, so it adds structures, guides the viewer's eyes, and ensures cohesion, making the design more engaging and dynamic. Rhythm helps to establish hierarchy by emphasizing key areas, evokes specific emotion through its variation, and sustain interest in both physical and digital spaces. Okay, so if you're creating any kind of website, again the concept of rhythm will definitely have to be there, because it should navigate the user to understand the overall composition such that it's not too chaotic, not over chaotic, and how repeating elements are playing an important role to reduce the chaotic nature of this composition. So if you feel, if you're creating a composition which is very much chaotic in nature, then you can minimize the overall things or different elements by repeating the elements which you feel make sense for a particular composition. So if you consider the idea of rhythm here again, from enhancing usability in interfaces to create captivating brand and art, rhythm transforms static visuals into compelling experiences, so making it essential for impactful and memorable design. So we have went through multiple examples where we have tried to understand how rhythm is primarily very much needed in most of the composition to create harmony, right, and to create more dynamic or an energetic representation. Okay, so with this, we'll try to end this session here. I'm pretty sure you have got some idea about the design principles and why, along with that, how the concept of repetition and rhythm plays important role in any type of compositions, right? And with this, we have also concluded the overall design principles, right? And as a graphic designer, if you're seeking for that position, right, how it can be important to utilize such kind of principles to express more effective or more dynamic representation. Apart from that, we have also gone through different segments where contrast, right, plays an important role in terms of compositions, right? Varieties plays an important role in all the overall composition, and how emphasis also create a sense of hierarchy in the compositions, right? And balance, again, when you are composing, visual weight is very important. Okay, so if you go through different compositions where the visual balance is being well attained, definitely the acceptance of that particular design or artwork or layout make sense to a large set of audience. So I'm pretty sure with all this learning, somewhere or the other, you will be utilizing those things even while you are making any kind of poster, presentation, or any kind of display you are planning to do. These principles of design will definitely help you to address those things in a more structured and a meaningful way. And also, it will open up doors to express emotion in more engaging and better, in a better way of addressing it in a more playful sometimes, or it can be in a more professional way of representation. So with this, we thank you, and we'll meet in the next session where we'll be learning about Gestalt principles in visual communication. Goodbye.